Hello and welcome to the second video for editors of the Professional Wrestling Studies Association Journal, talking about processes this time. If the first video addressed the personnel, the people who are there to support the editor, the editorial board, the reviewers, the executive committee of the Professional Wrestling Studies Association, this video is designed to walk you through the process and when to tag some of those people who are there to help. We like to imagine the process beginning, say, with the planning of Wrestleposium, our annual convention conference, our annual online only get together where academics, professionals, and fans come together to talk and make knowledge about the professional wrestling industry, art form, cultural phenomena. As the editor, you may be invited to participate in some of those conversations, and you should take advantage of that. You should make suggestions for who the professional keynote might be, who the scholarly keynote might be. You should make some suggestions about possible panel ideas, because panelists often become authors for the journal. A call for papers will be issued with the date and time and theme for Wrestleposium. Some abstracts, which are, maybe about a page long, will be delivered to the executive committee. You may want to ask to volunteer to be part of reviewing those abstracts to determine which ones will go on the Wrestleposium schedule. But honestly, the most important thing you can do is attend Wrestleposium and use the chat, use email afterwards to solicit some of the authors to generate submissions for the magazine. You might invite someone, you can listen to their paper and go, wow, I would love to read an expanded version of that in the pages of our journal. And you reach out to them and you invite them to participate, to send a paper. Wrestleposium is usually a late spring event because WrestleMania is usually a late spring event. And so manuscripts may start rolling in somewhere around the end of the semester if they're written by an academic. If they're written by a non-academic, lots of time. But academics sometimes push things off until after the grades are in. You'll start receiving manuscripts. The first thing you'll do when you read them is, when you receive them, is give them a quick read yourself. Does it seem like it's a good idea to publish a piece like this? Most of the time, our submissions are pretty awesome and can be circulated quite quickly to the review stage. A couple of them, maybe you might tell right off the bat, they just need some more work, some more development. Sometimes it's because you know something about wrestling yourself and you feel like, ooh, this piece misunderstands something, the industry. In those cases, you might want to reach back to the author and say, hey, I'd love to pick this up, but I need you to refine this, or I need you to refine that, or you can send it out to the anonymous reviewers. Out of maybe 20 applications, you might get one of those. Those are usually called a desk reject or a desk revision because it's from the desk of the editor that it goes straight back to the author to get amped up before it gets sent out for peer review. But if you like it, if you think it's got some potential, if you think it has some promise to be a publication in our journal, what you'll want to do is identify 2 people to read it, 2 people who can give you their feedback so that we imagine the journal represents a community. You as the editor and these 2 reviewers are the kind of representatives of our community, assessing the work, making sure it reflects the best in knowledge, the most contemporary in knowledge about professional wrestling. You'll send it to those reviewers. The first few reviewers you send it to might say no. They might say, I'm busy, I don't have time to read this. Or a few of the reviewers I've sent it to have said, actually, I've retired and I don't do this. I'm happily fishing, or in the case of one, writing novels about wrestling instead of scholarship. Don't be disheartened. This happens a lot. If you need help finding reviewers, the other members of the executive board are there to help you with suggestions. Sometimes you can look through the literature review, the bibliography of the paper, and find some currently living scholars who are cited and reach out to them and ask them for their opinion on the work. There's a form which asks questions about the work, and maybe I'll pause for a second here and see if I can find. All right, so here is the Professional Wrestling Studies Association Journal peer review sheet, and you'll see that there's a spot for the reviewer name, the name of the manuscript, and then comments to the author. Those are things which are usually written in a somewhat teacherly tone, hopefully, affirming what is good, identifying what needs to be strengthened. Occasionally, you'll see there's also a section called comments to the editor. And there are some things that an author might want to talk about with an editor that maybe you wouldn't want to be directly addressed to the author about the nature of a piece. A good example of this might be something like it would be helpful if at least one of the peer reviewers on this piece spoke Japanese, because it makes use not just of the wrestling in Japanese culture, but it refers to Japanese sources, for example. And the reviewer might say, I love this piece, but I don't speak Japanese, so I don't know how to assess those kinds of dimensions of the paper. Does that make sense? I think so. You've got your overall recommendations, which is to accept it as it is, publishing as it is, accept it with minor revisions, accepting it with major revisions, revise and resubmit, or reject. Most of your reviews are going to end up in these two categories, which is to say, accept with major revisions, or which means we like the piece, but there is some significant work that needs to be done on it, but we promise if that work is done, you will be published. Or revise and resubmit, which means, man, there's a lot of work ahead. You can revise it, send it back, and we will gladly take a look at it. It's the difference between, statistically, there's been research done on this. A revise and resubmit, your acceptance rate usually hops to about 60% once you've revised and resubmitted. And the reason it's 60%, which is better than zero, is that you've gotten feedback which gives you a sense of the shape of what they want and positively predisposes the next round of reviewers to see the virtues in the piece, right? And already started to shape it towards what they want. So in other words, really all of these are positive forms of feedback. You should really feel confident about that. Why might something be rejected? Something might be rejected if it reads like a fan review of a performance, right? And so it's the kind of thing you might find on a wrestling blog rather than a wrestling journal. To give you support as you're talking with the author, we have quantitative ratings for whether it follows the American Psychological Association format, whether it's clearly organized, whether the terms and language are effectively clear, how well the introduction is written, how well the literature review is written, if it has a method section, not every essay does. Does it have a well-written method section? If it has a results and discussion section, is that well written? And of course, are there conclusions or implications? How well is that written? And then some overall assessments. So as you're talking with the author, because your job is to teach them to write a better paper in many ways. You can give them numbers to back up the journal's assessment. Once you get your two assessments from your two reviewers, you collate the feedback, and sometimes the reviewers disagree with each other. It's your job to mediate that disagreement, break the ties, if you will, right? Where reviewers disagree. And then you craft an email which informs the folks of the decision, summarizes the best of the feedback, and invites the author into the next steps. And I'll talk about the next steps in video number 3, which will follow this one.